Enough. I understand. I'm trapped. The broadcast signal. That's all that matters. Astra, Helios is gone. Celine heading out.
Returnal is a Souls-like that I feel like not everyone's aware of, but should be, because it's a ton of fun. This game is pretty much the same thing, same concept. You play, you die, you repeat. Except, instead of having save points, you start back at the beginning. Every time. And although getting to the areas you may have unlocked may be easier, it's not right off the bat. A couple differences is you don't have permanent stat boosts. Instead, you have permanent upgrades, which are things like a grappling hook, a melee weapon, a dash, swimming underwater, I think, and just that kind. How you upgrade health is when you find medkits around the world, and using those medkits, if you have full health, will give you a siphon. You get 3 siphons, and you get yourself increased health. But then once you die, it's back to normal health again. Another cool thing this game has is integrity, which is when you kill enough enemies without taking damage, your integrity levels up. There's 5 levels, and then it's maxed, and they do things like make your weapon recharge faster because there's no reloads, increased visuals, which lets you see enemies, doors, and signals through walls, increased melee damage, increased alternate fire cooldown, and increased obolite collection, which is the currency. And in this game you play as Celine, who is a space traveler who has somehow got herself stuck in this cycle, and she has no idea how. With every playthrough you find more audio logs and areas where Selena will either listen or talk and kind of give you hints on what's going on, although not hints to where you'll piece it together in the first hour or so of the game. You have to get pretty far to figure it out. And the story slowly puts itself together as you play. And it's something you kind of have to pay attention to if you want the story. It's not necessary if you're going into this just to play it like a Soulsborne. You definitely can. But the story is pretty interesting. I have a ton of hours in this game and I've yet to beat it. But from what I've gathered myself, it's gripping. And it stays mysterious. It doesn't outright say this is the bad guy, this is the problem. It makes you have to think on it. Which is not something a lot of games tend to do. And so I like that. Some cool things about this game are the item collection. There is the health, which, as we've stated, if you have max health and you collect them over time, they'll increase your overall health. There is weapons, which vary from the beginning. When you start, there's just pistol, SMG, or shotgun, but as you play, more things get unlocked. An LMG, a sniper, a grenade launcher, a rocket launcher, an acid spitting, it's called the lobber. It expands. And as you get further in your playthroughs, you'll unlock proficiency, which increases rate of fire, or how strong their alternate fire is, how quick they recharge, and it's all about using every weapon type so they all upgrade so you're never stranded, which makes it you have to play several different playstyles. If you have a shotgun, you gotta be up close and personal. Pistol, you can be far off but not too far. LMG, it's good for a crowded room or a single enemy, but the reload can draw back, so distance is pretty important. And grenade launchers, where you can just run around like a maniac and fire at anything and everything. A couple of the cool things in this is there's areas like this where you go into lockdown and you are trapped in this room until every enemy is defeated. It's usually about 3 waves. There's small enemies, mini bosses, and a mix of the both. The mini bosses are pretty easy to take down as long as you know how to read them. Like this guy only has like 3 moves. Once you know them, you've got him down packed. And then there's a swamp guy who, again, only has about 3 moves. But he is a little quicker, and his maneuverability isn't in a straight line or anything. He can go into the ground and pop up anywhere else. Other enemies include the little crawling guys right there, turrets, robots, flying things, multiple different flying things, lasers, random bosses, infected items. It varies and spans, and it's kind of up to you to decide to go about all of it. With this game's progression, it's not in a sense where you're constantly leveling up or constantly gaining XP. It's more or less you're on the hunt for artifacts to increase your ability to get further in the game. And just like everything else in this one, when you die, it's all gone, and you start back at square one. Things that don't reset are permanent upgrades and weapon proficiency, but not in the sense of per game, because per game everything goes back to level 1. But as you use weapon types more, they'll get more bonuses, or you'll start to see the higher proficiency ones earlier in the game. So it really kind of has that grind mentality built into it, but it's definitely not for the faint of heart. This game is tough. I think it's tougher than a lot of Souls games. This game gives me a harder time than Elden Ring did, and Elden Ring was the second Souls game that I beat, the first being Bloodborne, and this one, now I've played all of them, but this one is definitely one of the harder ones, because enemies can move sporadically. They'll throw a ton of them at you at once out of nowhere. Sometimes they'll start hitting you the second you open a door. It's really quick, and it helps that Celine is as fast as she is. Between her sprint, her dash, her jump, her grapple, she moves super quick, but so do the enemies. So it's best to know what you're up against. Now, a couple of things I wasn't able to get footage of for this one was bosses. The bosses in this game make their presence known. When you're fighting a boss, it's very clear that's what's happening. You don't mistake it for a mini boss or a lockdown room. You know that you're up against something. And same goes for a boss. There's no checkpoints. So if you go down fighting a boss, it's back to square one. And I don't know about you, but for me, those are the type of games that make me want to grind. That's why I like the Soulsborne games so much, is that sense of having to restart and go back and just get revenge. And it's an incredible cycle for this one, because, like I said, just the story itself pieces itself together slowly, and as Celine starts to figure out what's going on, she kind of gets more aggressive and more assertive. She becomes less afraid. It's like, compare it to Leon throughout the story of Resident Evil 2. He starts off scared and confused, but over time he kind of just gets annoyed by things and starts to be kind of facetious about a lot of stuff. And although she's not quite to that, she's more of she's going to figure this out, no matter how many times she has to restart this cycle. And another thing that she kind of addressed for the first time while I was playing, at least that I noticed, that it's not the same Celine every time, because she has come across her past bodies and corpses before. So I don't know quite what to make of that and how that memory works, but it's definitely interesting. And if this isn't a game you've played before and you have a PlayStation, I recommend picking it up. I think a reason that not a ton of people have played it, and this might not make sense, but in a way to me it does, is the entirety of the time it's been out, it's been on PS Plus. And although it sounds like that should mean more people have played it, it didn't get a ton of advertising as far as it's a PS5 game. And only a PS5 game. One more thing I do want to commend this game on is the haptic feedback for this game is the best I've had and experienced in any game. If you're standing in the rain, you can feel every individual drop. When your weapon's recharging, the controller feels like it's recharging something. When you fire, you feel every single bullet. When you level up, you feel the vibrations like it's a strength thing. And it's so responsive and so cool to witness. So yeah, if this isn't a game you've tried or picked up and you have PS Plus, I'd get it. It's free for PS Plus. And if you don't have a PlayStation, I recommend even looking into the story of it, because it's something that's super interesting and slowly develops itself. And if you are going on this adventure, there's no way you get it in the first try, and if you do, I commend you. But chances are you're just going to have to go through the cycle over and over and over again. And are you going to walk away and quit? Or are you going to be like Celine and keep going until you discover just exactly what is hiding behind Returnal? See ya.